Well, welcome everyone. I hope you're all healthy and safe. I'm Padmini Gupta, CEO and co-founder of Rise. Accelerators, incubators, they're all at the front line for the startup ecosystem, seeing companies at the earliest stages of development. They even see entrepreneurs before entrepreneurs decide to take the dive into being an entrepreneur. So this is the time to get advice. The topic of discussion is ecosystem support in the UAE, what's available, and how startups can access it. We have guests from the top accelerators in the country. Robin Brazil from Start AD, Saeeda Nofli from In5, and Hisham Akhtar from Shura. Our guests, will you please take a moment and introduce yourselves and the companies that you work with?
Sure. So
yes, please. Sure.
Okay. So I'm Robin Brazil. So I am the director of Start AD. So I'm in Abu Dhabi, based at New York University's Abu Dhabi campus. So just very quickly, a little bit about what we do for people who may not know. So we run various entrepreneurship programs focused on different stages and different audiences. So we run programs for, just like Padmini was saying, just an idea, or you just want to learn a skill and you don't really know how you're going to apply it, all the way through. We run a global accelerator program with local corporates. So that is something we've been doing now for about 4 years, since we officially launched in 2016. So we've worked with companies that come from almost 30 different countries, very diverse offerings with an array of different local corporate and public sector partners. So we offer a little bit for everyone. And the next programs we have coming up, we are moving to focus on deep tech, which I think is kind of a gap here in the region. How can we catalyze our faculty research from labs, as well as doubling down on sustainable development, which is another sector that we're going to be running, taking our global accelerator and moving it online, running in June. So really excited to test ourselves in an online model. So that's me, and that's Start AD.
Great. Okay, I'm Saeeda Nofli. I'm from In5. In5 is actually a business incubator that is located in Dubai. We are under TCOM Group. TCOM Group is, owning the whole DIC, all the business parks in Dubai. And In5 is basically an innovation center under this group. And the point is how In5 has started is, the group has seen the rise of Souk.com and Uber and all these, Kareem coming in, and they wanted to create something for the local community in order to see and foster innovative ideas. And this is how N5 was born. So N5 was born 7 years ago, since 2013. It was one of the first incubators out there. And I've just actually joined them 2 months ago. But exciting times ahead. So I'm heading the whole vertical of M5, and the 3 sectors that we're focusing on is tech, design, and media. And we have 3 innovation centers in every sector of TCOM's property. So, we've got around 200, 200 startups incubated currently, and over around 500 in total with our community, around 500 members who are actually housed at N5. And we take teams from idea or building the MVP, and we take them through 3 years of support. So what we provide is a subsidized license, visa, co-working space, and a space of 3 years of staying in the same space with like-minded people in order for them to support each other. And we provide networking event, advisory, mentorship, and so on, and also business connection. Us being placed in between the heart of big companies like CNN, like Cisco, Oracle, all these guys. We're trying to also build a connection in order for us to make these startups reach these big companies. And with that support and us focusing on different sector, we can supply the ecosystem and the business as a whole with the quality startups. And I'm some call me as an incubation guru or whatever, but it's just that I love this space, and I love supporting startups from from UAE and the region, because I really truly believe that, you know, there is a lot of talent out there, and we can actually produce the best startups like Silicon Valley or any other ecosystem out there. So that's it from my side.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Isham, and I'm a senior associate at Shura. Shura is a government initiative that was started about 4.5 years ago with one goal in mind: to basically support and help entrepreneurs in the ecosystem. We do that through multiple offerings that we have, primarily which are accelerator programs that take entrepreneurs from the idea phase all the way up to Series A. Additionally, we also have an outreach component, which is targeting more students and fresh entrepreneurs, and that is more on the idea side of things. We also have a Sharjah Entrepreneurship Festival every year, which is more on the inspiration side of things. So, you know, to be honest, we try to cover every angle of the entrepreneur's journey with the goal in mind that we want to find and help the best talent in the ecosystem. To date, we have about 150 companies in our portfolio that we've supported through different accelerator programs. And yeah, we're always available and always looking for new ideas to support, not just from from the UAE, from the region as well.
Thank you for that. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to ask questions for the next 30 to 45 minutes. But if the audience has questions, please feel free to ask, and then we'll leave enough time for Q&A at the end. So let's just get right into it. How are startups in your respective portfolios coping with the COVID crises, and what advice are you giving them? Do you want to start, Saeed?
Yes, sure. Currently, since this pandemic has happened, it's been difficult not only for startups but for everyone actually. And the thing is, with us, having a lot of companies, actually big companies, and also startups house, it's really difficult for them to actually maneuver. But our direction as a center is, because we give them license, we give them, and it's actually subsidized. We kind of take this case by case and supporting them, because the thing is some of them, yes, are currently suffering, but also some of them are also thriving at this moment. So from our side is, we've kind of we had startups who are graduating. We've kept them with us. We've extended their stay in order for them to stay for a bit longer with the rates that we're giving. In terms of business connection, we try to, with this situation, try to support them, as connecting them with relevant businesses. Some of them, they're kind of, in this pivoting moment that, okay, this is, an opportunity during this crisis. Also trying to support them as well. And another thing that we also did is we try to showcase them on media as well. Because now the media is also hungry of listening to these such cases. But internally, there is a lot that we're doing. For example, delaying payments as well. We're trying to be lenient when it comes to that as well, because we are a business incubator as well, and they are also paying in order for them to renew their licenses and so on. So in terms of that perspective, we are trying to help in every other aspect, because the thing is that this has come quick. So for us to react, also we need to react quicker in order to cater to this to the ecosystem as well, and also our other business partners.
What about you, Hisham and Robin?
Yeah, so from our side, to be honest, I mean, there's no denying the fact that startups are suffering, right? It's suddenly the situation has just gone to an extreme. From our side, primarily, we're looking at, the portfolio is looking more on the connections side rather than pure cash support. So they're looking to be connected to find, customers, corporates, and generate cash flow through those means. Certainly, there is a portion that does need that immediate support in terms of grants. So from our side, we're trying to speed those up as much as possible. And then kind of to echo what Saeed said, there is also a portion of the portfolio that is open to suddenly so many new opportunities, and they're seeking our advice on, okay, how do we capitalize on those opportunities, you know? So we've kind of started a couple of things from our side. We started a Slack community, Small Biz UAE, which this webinar series is a part of. We've added extra office hours to provide more mentorship to our portfolio companies. And we're working on a couple of things as well, part of which was shifting our programs virtually. So we just actually concluded our seed program yesterday. So we can still, you know, support the founders that have these new opportunities in front of them. So yeah, it's a mix of what we're seeing. It's not all bad, to be honest. There is, you know, some potential as well in the situation.
Is there some bad though? And how are you handling those conversations?
There's a lot
yeah, there is definitely. And I mean, from my side, I think there's like no point in trying to deny the facts, right? I mean, if a startup is facing a cash crunch, you have to accept that, and you have to deal with it as, you know, as it comes. Don't, you know, kid yourself that you're going to raise around in the next 2-3 months, or you know, capital will just flow. Try to manipulate the variables that are in your control. So manage your costs, try to find revenue streams, micro pivots, try to capitalize on the opportunities in front of you, and accept that it's like the situation you're in is overwhelming. I think that's very important for founders to accept that it's okay to not have all the answers right now.
Yep. So I guess, you know, I don't want to, you know, repeat what they've been saying. So it's the same thing. So we've been seeing, on average, the outlook is not great. And I think particularly for early stage startups as well, those that are already super high risk and just coming up to the point of seeking their first institutional investment. So that is kind of where we see the most hard hit segment of the startups that we work with. On top of, because we predominantly work with B2B startups. So they are, they live and die by corporate pilots and securing paid pilots or those first contracts. So we've seen a lot of retrenchment from some of the large corporates. We've seen delays in issuing contracts where they have already gotten to the point where there was letter of intent, contracts drafted, terms are agreed, and the pause button is hit. So clearly that creates huge cash flow issues when to even set up and prepare for some of these pilots takes the entire manpower of a startup, because they've put all of their eggs in that, you know, in that company's basket. So what we have been trying to do both locally and for our startups that are globally is very immediately when this came down, we realized that we were moving all of our programs online, which meant that we were actually going to be the beneficiaries of a lot of cost savings for our programs. So we pulled together $30,000 and say, this is going pure grants, cash in hand. How can we make this as quick and fast as possible for our UAE-based companies to get the support they need? And we call them runway grants. They're otherwise very viable companies that we want to get them through this period where we kind of dissect, you know, we have these conversations, you know, what happened, how much cash is in the bank, where are these contracts, what is going on? Let's look at, you know, where you're doing a cost cutting, and we're rewarding those companies that we think have taken the right steps. And the right steps, I think, in most cases is not a wait and see approach, not let's just all go away for a couple months, let's put everybody on furlough. There needs to be some action taken, because this is not a temporary situation. I think in the first few weeks, we were all kind of, okay, let's wait. It's going to be a few weeks, but we are clearly, and have been for at least a month, in a long temporary situation. So what we are helping our startups do in a very tangible way is, one, the grants, but with the grants also come, and we're partnering with another startup which is called Scalable CFO, to help them rework their financial models, because we feel most startups across the board really struggle anyway in reworking their financial models. Yes, they can pivot the business, but the back end is always super messy. So we're working with Scalable CFO to help companies rework their financial models, look where they can find cost savings, look where they can find additional ways to kind of extend their lives for a few different months. So those are a couple tangible things. And then for our global startups, it's the connections. Like I said, we're trying where we can, we're sector focused. So the more connections we have, let's say for this new accelerator program, we're also looking to introduce to our alumni startups that are have come through in previous cycles. So those are a couple tangible things that we're trying to do.
Brilliant, thank you. So are there any particular policies or initiatives that you feel that startups should know about that could be of great benefit to them? Can you highlight any specifics?
So I think the Entrepreneur Middle East put out a really nice article, and I'm sure it's being updated, but it has a bunch of different initiatives and resources. And I think I'll just share a link to the group of the article right now, which is the best thing that I can point to that kind of lays out. So I just sent it to everybody. Hopefully I did it to the attendees, not just us, that I think lays out a bunch of different initiatives depending on, you know, what emirate you're in, and also public and also different private initiatives. So I'd encourage everyone to take a look at that Entrepreneur Middle East article that came out a few days ago.
Do you want to add to that, Hisham?
To be honest, I think like the initiatives that are happening at the moment are at the federal level, and then are trickling down. So I think this article that Robin posted, it's good in terms of giving the insights into what's available and kind of how to approach that support. No specific initiatives comes to my mind that I don't think the attendees wouldn't be aware of, because a lot of this information is being shared, you know, on LinkedIn and social media. So, but yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I would just reiterate that there is a lot happening. So founders need to be a little proactive and you know, find those opportunities for support.
Definitely.
Yeah. So
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wanted to add from our side, you know, there is different ways that we're tackling this from our perspective as startups. We're trying to direct them in different ways, and also our initiative also to support the DHA. So basically, we've created this list because we have like over 200 startups incubated. So each and one of them actually are contributing to the health sector in any some certain way. So we've put this list, and then we're basically trying to connect them with the right people who are interested in that sort of a solution and so on. So, and another thing also being, we have also under N5 a huge makerspace that we use. We've actually working with Dubai Healthcare Authority to provide them with the PPE. Maybe you guys seen a lot of entities are supporting, the healthcare workers. So we're currently working on sponsoring 1,000 PPE units, providing the doctors and nurses in order to help them with that. So this is kind of an initiative from our side and doing that, and also introducing some startups who are, tapping into the problems right now that the healthcare, the health sector needs. So these are the kind of things. But in terms of initiatives, as much as anything which is available, from Abu Dhabi, from Sharjah, we actually put something together and we share it with our community in order for us to support them in this difficult times.
Brilliant. Maybe you'll share it with us as well, Saeed, so that all of our participants have some access to it. Look, the restrictions is just starting to slowly ease up, right, in the country, and startups are trying to think about how to make the comeback. Some had to really slow down while others had to ramp up. How do you suggest they do that?
Well, I think in some cases, it's a good stock taking for startups, especially ones that were on a certain growth trajectory that maybe recently secured an amount of funding and haven't been as strict with their financials as they could have been. So I think it's a good opportunity, and we're doing it, you know, ourselves as an organization, thinking, well, we should have been online a long time ago, and things that should have happened already. So not going back to the norm. So I think for all startups, I think it's a very reflective point about what should remain in this kind of new normal that is actually going to be to the benefit of the startup. Because I think what is happening right now, it's accelerating trends that already existed, like moving online, moving to more collaborative, open tools of working, remote working. So I think not looking to just go back to the normal and what's safe, but really look at what could come out of this better. And then just being super cautious, like anything, you know, just having the health and safety of your employees top of mind, especially for a startup, you're a small team. They are your lifeblood. So just making sure that they are taken care of.
Yeah, I also would like to add, because you know the thing is, and I think this has started long time ago when I was in Shura, is that we always try to tell the startups to have these kind of being ready for any risks that are coming. And you know, a lot of people talk about 2008 and as if they are experienced, but let's be honest here. We might have experienced and we might have been affected by 2008, but this is a different animal. So it's like I would say, as we move forward with the days, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? So as we go, we need to adapt, and defensibility, protecting, reflecting back, looking at what's going to happen next is for you to prepare as the days come by. So it's really important, and I've been advising a lot of startups. Some of the startups, they come back to me saying, Saeed, what should we do? And some of them are actually waiting for things to go back, right? And I really don't advise that because things are actually changing. And this is going to change really differently now, because now people have, as Ruben said, that everyone now is moving online. And I think a lot of people are concerned with, freelancers and stuff, but I actually see the rise of, doing jobs online now more than having a full-time job. So there are opportunities, and I really advise startups to actually look forward instead of looking back and thinking about what happened in 2008 and this is going to be something that is not not going to be different. But it is going to be different, and it's actually, as much as it's something that we are currently facing and it's a crisis, but we have to know that there are opportunities that are going to open up, like in 2010 and like, other crises that happen.
Yeah, and kind of just to add to what Robin and Said said, I think founders need to be cautiously optimistic about restrictions easing a little bit, because they can be back in place again fairly soon. Hopefully they don't. Hopefully the situation continues to improve. And on that point, I think now more than ever, it's important for founders to be ready for whatever scenarios come their way, right? So kind of what Said was saying in terms of risk, now more than ever, they need to sit down and rework their numbers. They need to plan for different scenarios that could happen in terms of customer acquisition, in terms of their costs. The projections that they had done where it was maybe 25-30% customer acquisition every month, it's not going to happen now, right? It may be for your particular startup. I mean, I'm just speaking generally here, but be ready for whatever scenario comes your way. And that means reworking your financial model and trying to find additional revenue streams. I think that's very important to do at this stage.
Absolutely. And I just want to add one thing, Padmini, a bit of bright news in this. Well, good and bad. It's good for the startups, not so good for other individuals that have maybe lost their livelihoods in this situation. But same with the last recession, you usually see an uptick in startups because there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent that had wanted to pursue their own ideas or join startups, and now this gives them kind of the free rein to do so. So I think startups looking for amazing professional talent, it's a great opportunity, and entry-level talent as well. So this is my shameless plug for NYU Abu Dhabi grads, phenomenal, amazing talent. So if you are any of the companies out there as attendees, looking to take a risk on recent grads. I mean, it is incredible the amount of talent that's available right now.
Well, great. And, you know, I completely agree with your point, right? And one of our participants just said, and I think his name is Paul Epping, which is, this is not a reset, it's a transformation. Hope I got that right. And I absolutely agree. So, you know, down to the things that startups need most, which is funding. What has changed in the VC environment? What does the new funding landscape really look like? Would you like to start, Robin?
Sure. So I think what we've seen is that it's not uniform, because I think a lot of what I've seen generally is that, oh, you know, VCs aren't investing, they're doubling down on their own portfolios, which all may be very, very true. They're businesses and they have to generate returns for their LPs. So I think in some cases, yes, they're doubling down on their own portfolio companies, especially those in sectors that have been really hard hit. So they're looking to give them bridge financing and getting them through. So there's not as much capital. And again, to my earlier point, early stage, I think early stages kind of hit the hardest because it was always a riskier class to begin with. So I think we've seen that. However, I think there are a lot of recently closed funds out there with fresh powder that are looking to invest. And certainly, I think what has to be delicately navigated is that it is, at the outset, it looks like a buyer's market. So that means, you know, valuations for startups are going to be not as exceptional as they have been in the past. However, I think in some instances, they've been overvalued for a bit of time. So this, again, is just coming back to a little bit more resetting a new baseline as far as VC. But I think any advice I could give to startup is research the fund that you are approaching, see who is actively investing and where they are in their fund life cycle. Because there are some new funds that are actively looking to invest right now, even though I think it is a bit quieter. And I think it will be for the next year, because again, we're dependent on these funds being able to raise new funds themselves. They're their own businesses, which people don't quite appreciate, and they're struggling just like anybody else to get other individuals to invest into them. So it is going to be a challenging year, but that doesn't mean that there's not funding available.
Brilliant. Hisham, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what Robin said, I think that's kind of what I've been seeing as well. Obviously, investment isn't going to stop completely, especially given globally other asset classes are proving to be a trickier investment now. So we might see some of that funding, you know, channel to venture capital. What I do see happening though is VCs probably will now be looking for more sustainable businesses rather than focusing on hyper growth. At least for the newer investments they're making and some of the newer funds that are coming along. So I think that in a way, I mean, in my opinion, that's probably going to be a good shift going forward. Hypergrowth is great, but then if like we come to a situation where there's a bit of a cash crunch, it's a problem, right? So let's try to rethink that approach. Obviously, growth is important. You know, the VCs are still in the business of returning investment to their LPs. So they still need those 10x, 15x, 20x returns. But let's just kind of approach that in a little bit of a more sustainable way, I would say. And I do see that shift happening. But for the short term, I think it's going to be tough. Another thing I think founders need to be a bit careful of are the terms of investment. Because, you know, they might be looking for that bridge. Not that I'm saying that VCs will look for that or will do that, but there may be a situation where the terms are not so favorable for founders, and they might just end up taking that cash because they need it.
What about you, Saeed?
Yeah, I actually agree with both, and I think it's a learning curve for everyone, and I think it is for VCs as well. And you know, at times I've noticed that VCs invest in some companies that don't make sense at all to me. and some of them are actually, just for growth purposes. And, it's like the 2008 when everyone started investing in properties, and then until the bubble hit. And it's the same thing now. Now they need to have a reality check and go back and then, and start investing in businesses which are sustainable. And this is going back to even Shira and the way they train entrepreneurs is, at the early stage, you will not get the investor like you will get in Silicon Valley with a pitch deck, right? You will have to show that you have sales, you have profitability, and your business is sustainable. And I've noticed, a lot of startups came to us, raise investment, but when you look at their business, you look at their financials, you know that these guys are not gonna, they're going on growth and they're not focusing on sustainability. And now it's a reality check for them to take few steps back as a VCs, because let's be honest, guys, they have the money, but they're still learning as well. And we're all learning as well. Okay. So now is the time to take a few steps back and the VCs also to look at this. So my advice to the startups is to focus on sustainable businesses, especially at this difficult times, because the growth and you trying to, grow as quick as possible might not be an option right now, maybe in the future, but at this current moment, I think sustainable and you, because sustainability will make you survive, right? So this is very important now to focus on. And the buzz of tech startups and stuff is it needs to now, calm down. And we need to focus on improving the business elements for these startups to actually improve.
So in this crisis, there is still opportunity, right? And what are the opportunities that you're seeing coming out of this?
Okay.
Robin, would you like to start?
Sure. So a couple things, and I think it's just pulling a thread that I think Saeed mentioned about freelancers, is that they're really suffering right now. However, I think they're going to come out of this, and marketplaces for professional services is something that I have been really excited about for a while, and some models that I see coming out for legal services, accountancies, finance in particular, marketing. So I really think that there may be some huge opportunities, as well as I think what was already growing is the startups for SMEs. And so I think it's an underserved segment anyway, those that can't afford the huge tech licenses and packages of the Oracles, the SAPs, the IBMs. There's a segment there for back-end services for SMEs where everyone needs to streamline costs. So I think there are some enterprise solutions that may also be coming out of this really strong. And then the third area that I am really excited about, and I'm ignoring all of the health stuff, okay? Because that's the obvious, everyone can talk about it. So I'm thinking about things that are maybe not as obvious. So the third is local manufacturing, because I think what we've realized with this is that we need to buttress and support local supply chain and local manufacturing. And so I think that's another area too, where I think there's gonna be a lot of opportunity in automations, robotics, especially in countries like ourselves where you don't have you just don't have the population in the workforce, and you don't have the political baggage of having the human capital in manufacturing. You can do some really interesting new things. So those are a few things that kind of top of mind that are really interesting. And of course, agriculture and food and water. So yeah.
Yeah, I think just to add to what Robin said, I mean, I think there are going to be opportunities in a lot of different verticals. One vertical that I'm personally very excited about, where I see a lot of innovation that's going to happen, is going to be in terms of remote collaboration. So right now we're getting used to video and interacting, sitting in our houses through video, but how do we make that more interactive? How do you make it more experiential? So virtual reality integration, augmented reality integration. I see globally that's going to be, I mean, the big tech giants are already on this war now. So Facebook is like, okay, Rooms, and Google is suddenly relevant again, and Zoom is there. So like just, completely isolated from the current situation. I mean, in terms of like a cool factor, I guess. I think this is going to be a very big segment of startups.
Yeah, from my side, I'm actually with this part in particular, what Ruben has said with regards to local manufacturing and doing things internally. I think I am one of the people who has suffered from this previously in my previous startup. That I was trying to showcase or manufacture locally things like hardware and stuff, and I've struggled because it's always depending on the outside that is the perfect outside to come in and buy in, and the local entrepreneurs will not have the opportunity to have that. And having this lockdown and having these things here, it made us reflect back, even in terms of agriculture. And today people are actually looking for local stuff, and this is very important, hitting on our food security and also having the talent within. And this is something I would say it's on a government level. And I've spoken a lot to people from the government, and I said, what, maybe this lockdown will actually bring out innovation, because
Right.
because you have money, you've been ignoring the local entrepreneurs who are trying to innovate, and you've been bringing things from outside. Maybe this lockdown will bring innovation out, because you need to support your local community instead of having this showing off, and start depending on them. And it's really good, because I've seen now even hospitals, even every entity is actually looking at these local entrepreneurs and trying to get solutions from them. And as much as there is the bad things that are happening, but I really see a lot of talent out there are actually now stepping up to provide solutions, and it's really exciting. And another thing also, I've seen the rise. We've talked about the marketplaces and so on, and certainly even though we have many, but they have actually supported this crisis in terms of supplying. I don't think that we are short of delivery and places to order and stuff. That infrastructure, even the video communication is certainly like up there amongst the best. So I think I really thank the government and the telecommunication sector to support us, because we went off, everyone's gone home, but work as is. I think I'm actually being more productive being here than at work, even though I miss people from work. But it is an opportunity, and I think there is a lot of things positives are coming, and certainly for me it's the local innovators are now their time to they are stepping up, and I'm hoping the government also to continue to look at this sector, or this group.
Sure. And are there any budding startups that you have that have caught your eye that you think are doing really well and should be watched closely, that are in your portfolio? How about you, Hisham?
We're working with a couple of newer startups. So we have one that just graduated from our seed program, Cycle Technologies. I believe Robin is aware of them as well, because they were at Start AD before. So they're working on, they developed a recycling bin that will really help on the sustainability side of things. And when it comes to kind of marketplaces, we have El Grocer in our portfolio. They're doing exceptionally well. Suddenly the demand for home delivery grocery has gone up significantly. So we have a couple, and we're very excited to even work with startups that aren't necessarily in our portfolio. But if we can support them in some way, we're on the lookout for them as well.
Robin,
From my side.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry,
from my side, I would like to, I would like to highlight one of the startups that I thought they're very interesting, and they are part of the N5 incubated companies. And this is actually something I think we should all be proud of, not only as N5, but as an ecosystem. We have a company which was incubated around 5 years ago. They're called WrapUp. And WrapUp got acquired by Cisco recently. And these guys came actually from a hackathon in N5. And then they went and they got acquired by Voicera, and Cisco has acquired Voicera as well. So, I've always said, a lot of the businesses are kind of a copycats, the one who have exited. Okay, there is a working model that has worked outside, and they came here and they did, and they exited it. So it's an obvious. But now we have seen a global company has invested in, a local company, and acquired a local company. And from this story, and for many, actually, there are many, but I'm saying that, this is, one of the exciting startups that have come out of here. And I think there are many out there are also on the way. So it's really exciting. This is one of the, I would say, few exits that are, in the tech sector, but hopefully we will see more.
Okay, perfect. What about you, Robin?
Sure. So we actually ran for the first time with Aldar a program called Manasa for kind of SMB, food and beverage, traditional retail businesses. So there are a couple surprises that came out of that I'm really excited about, kind of in a sector that's clearly, underwater right now, really, really suffering, but new models. So the program was designed of food and bev. So the timing was really perfect for that situation. So one of them is a local kombucha company. So I don't know if people know what kombucha is. It's a fermented tea drink that's very popular in Europe and starting to become very popular here for its health and probiotic functions, as well as it's just really delicious. You can make it in a range of different flavors. So I think it's really interesting. We have a couple of those kind of those consumer products that have exploded locally. So it's one that I'm really excited about that can have the same trajectory and venture growth as a typical VC-backed company, like a Blue Bottle Coffee, some of those that you've seen being acquired by the big ones. So that's kind of off the beaten path, one that I'm really excited about. Same with, there's some other companies that have made really nice pivots from ones that we worked with that had targeted the construction sector. One is a satellite surveillance, and they can do kind of predictive modeling originally for construction sites, as far as, what does the land look like, the early surveying that has to happen, and they've pivoted into agriculture recently, and even doubling down with the COVID situation to help governments. And that's another one. They're global, but looking to have a presence here in the UAE. It's called Satshare. So really excited to see what they can do. And then the last one, again, kind of pivoting to help a sector that is in much need, especially retail, is another one called Design Hubs that we worked with last year. Again, they're kind of, like Hisham said, they're in kind of the virtual reality. They do 3D modeling of products, so you can see it, and they work with IKEA. So they've done a lot of you can see all of the furniture, so that you don't have to go in store, because I think the future is a lot more online buying. So that's a company that I think is going to do really well to help retailers transfer online a better, and have their products, people be able to experience their products in a different way. So those are three that I'm really excited to watch in the coming months.
Well, those are all very exciting startups. So it was interesting to hear about them. So I'm going to wrap up for Q&A next, but before I do, I wanted to ask, what's your advice to startups right now, people who are actually thinking about entrepreneurship?
So I think it depends on your personal situation and where you are on your ability to take certain calculated risk. So that's it's like a pendulum. You can fall on that spectrum depending on where you are as a person. I would say for startups that are already in business, focus on your customers. If you have existing customers, really, really double down on those relationships and make sure they are secure. If you need to rework invoicing, be creative about how you keep cash flow coming in, please do so. And then ones that are just thinking about entrepreneurship, of course, it's a perfect time. Because I think out of these crises do come innovation, where things can get streamlined and opportunities will come up in a new normal, because we haven't figured out a lot of things yet. So I think if you have some industry expertise in some of these areas, and you think you can add value by creating a new product or service, I think it's a good time.
So from my side, I would say my advice to startups is, depending on the situation where you are currently, and we're going to see a lot of working professionals who are kind of losing jobs. So it's an opportunity to use their talent and experience for them to identify a sector or something that they want to go into. And for the existing startups, I would say I really urge them to stop sitting down and complaining and innovate in their business models, because this is now is the right time to do it. And you can't sit there and watch your company go down. You need to innovate. You need to look at different ways. And honestly speaking, from experience, I think entrepreneurs thrive during these moments. Moments of crisis is where entrepreneurs are there. Yes, there is a lot of when things are great, it's easier to be to start a business. But now is the challenge for you to test yourself and also try to continue taking that journey. And there is an article someone sent me. It's called Silicon Camel or something like that. I'm gonna try and find it and share it. And it actually talks about how the startups who are currently surviving in these current moments are the ones with who have had a proper structure, and they are generating sales. They focus on sustainability and so on. And sustainability is very, very important. And I think there are opportunities, and I think me certainly I'm looking forward to the future and what's coming up next in the next 12 months. Yes, there are challenges, but there are exciting times. And I think I always say entrepreneurs thrive at difficult times.
And from my side, I mean, completely agree with what Robin and Saeed have said. I think I would just add a bit of a different element in terms of the advice. I think founders, whether they're thinking about starting a business or they have an existing business, need to have those honest conversations with themselves. That, for example, if you have financial responsibilities and you have a family, you have kids in school, maybe right now is not the best time for you to start startup. Maybe right now it's better to stick to that steady stream of cash flow that's coming in. It varies from situation to situation, but I would encourage entrepreneurs to have those honest conversations. If you have an existing business, accepting that, okay, things aren't working and you need to change. It's a difficult thing to do sometimes, because a lot of times founders just, they have that tunnel vision that whatever I'm doing is the right path to go on. So just be flexible, like Saeed said, find those different opportunities, innovate. There will be tons of opportunities coming out of this crisis for sure. But just have those, be mindful of your personal situation, and don't just, entrepreneurs go with the flow a lot of the times. But just be mindful of your personal situation before taking any decisions.
What about you, Padmini? You're the experienced entrepreneur here. Let's hear from you.
Well, look, I agree, right? So when the crisis started, so we're watching it from afar, and as it closened up to us, and we're actually in the midst of it, what we realized is we can have sustained growth, and we can manage profitability, and we have to cut costs, right? So like you said, Robin, what are the things that we're not doing that we should have been doing all along, and just take those out and make them new so they're more cost effective. The idea is definitely, if you're an existing business, keep trying, pivot if you have to. But if you're someone that's thinking about entrepreneurship, I think go for it, because there are going to be many business models that just completely get slashed and will not exist post-COVID. And what you need to think about is, what are you going to be doing next? You can't do the same thing you've always been doing. You've got to move on. And what are the skills that you bring to the table that can help you do that? And I think entrepreneurship it's seen as an ecosystem is actually going to thrive post-COVID, because it will have to. Many people won't have the businesses anymore. and they'll have to start figuring out what their next gig is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you. Look, we've got some really interesting questions, right? So let me start with number one. From an accelerator's point of view, how's current situation affecting new entrepreneurs or early stage startups? Would you like to start with that? Because I feel like the question's been answered, but if you have anything additional.
And I think we kind of like discussed that a little bit earlier. I mean, it's not great, but it's also not terrible for early stage entrepreneurs and new time, like first time founders, I think. I don't know if Robin or Said have anything to add to that.
No.
No, I'm okay.
Okay. All right. So how adaptable are entrepreneurs in these current situations, and what are you doing to help your entrepreneurs be more agile and adaptable? Do you want to start, Robin, or do you have anything to add?
Yeah, that's fine. So I think on average, you know, entrepreneurs are very adaptable because they have to be. They're coming into, they're trying to create something new, something that hasn't been done before. So they need to constantly take in information that they're seeing, synthesize it, and then move forward with the best decisions. However, I think in this situation, you are seeing a couple different reactions. You're seeing swift and decisive actions to address what's happening, even if nobody knows. They're still attempting. And then unfortunately, you are seeing the let's wait it out. Let's put our heads in the sand. And of course, there are financial impetus between both of those situations. But I don't think putting your head in the sand and waiting for this to all blow over and everything will be great in the fall is the kind of the right approach. But it is, we have seen that reaction as well.
So I want to ask a question that Paul Epping asked, which is, what in this context is meant by sustainability?
So if I can answer that, for me, when we talk about sustainability, it's about your business model and the financial side of things. I'm a numbers person, so the numbers, the bottom line has to make sense. You know, those days I think are behind us where there was a sea of red or negative in the bottom line. That can't happen anymore. But more importantly, I think it's also like being sustainable in terms of your revenue generation and your customer acquisition side of things. So predict or hope for the best, but plan for the worst, you know? So I think when I think of sustainability, it's more on the financial model side of things and being realistic with your numbers and costs.
Yeah, I think when that question came up, it's to do with the sustainability of the business model, not necessarily that it's a business that goes towards, you know, sustainability goals as well, which also is a great opportunity now. I think you'll see more of that. So just to add just a slight more detail, when I think of sustainable business models, it's just moving up, having the reasonable projections where the pathway to profitability is much sooner than I think you've seen in a lot of other models where they prioritize growth over profitability. So I think that is a distinguishing factor as well.
Perfect. So with all programs and sessions moving online, is there now more room for collaboration between different incubation centers to make sure there's more value being offered to entrepreneurs? Said, do you want to take that question?
I think this webinar is one thing that brought us all together in order for us, and thanks to Shara for this. And I think we will continue to collaborate together in order for us to, you know, pass around, you know, different, you know, knowledge and workshops and so on. And currently internally, what we're doing is, you know, we've been doing a lot of events at N5, and now we have shifted everything online, and we're trying to, you know, start the workshops also for our community as well. But definitely, this is one thing that I'm looking at in the future in order for us to collaborate with the likes of Start AD, Shara, and so on, in order for us to work together. It's just that a lot of things that happened in a space of 3 months, that, you know, it's you have to adapt to the situation, adapt to, you know, try to work with your startups and trying to support them in every way, and also looking forward to the future as well. But definitely a collaboration we are working towards, and that's what we're looking at, and hopefully we will see it soon.
What about you, Robin and Hisham? Open to collaboration across?
Yeah, of course. And we're actually looking outside of the UAE even, because it kind of reduces some of the issues where a lot of our programs involve international experts and mentors. So I think our reach is much broader now, where those individuals where we used to bring them in person now can kind of deliver support and resources from wherever they happen to be. So that element of the collaboration, it's already increasing. We're having calls and meetings with other corporate ventures and corporate venturing arms in Europe and Asia that are interested in the region, but now they can be even more so now that everybody's a little bit more comfortable online, which again is unfortunately we could have been doing this the whole time, but now at least the comfort level is there. So certainly the collaborations outside of the UAE are fantastic. And like Saeed said, in country too, I think there's a lot that can be done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like collaboration was already happening to an extent as well previously, at least within the ecosystem. I think now it's just that because it's become a lot easier. So I think definitely from our side, we want to collaborate more. So this webinar kind of is just at the basic level in terms of knowledge sharing. When it comes to our programs, at the moment we are, you know, exploring what possible collaborations we can have, because one thing we don't want to do is to collaborate but not still deliver the high level of quality that we want to the founders and startups, right? So it's not just ticking a box. So if there are meaningful collaborations to be had, for sure, we're absolutely open to those opportunities.
Perfect. So someone has a question for Robin, which is, one way that StartAD can support us is through talent recruiting. How can we as a startup get access to something like this?
So I shared with the group the email alias for our NYU Abu Dhabi employer contact. So our career development center, we work with them very closely. So that's an email alias. If you just mention, you know, StartAD recommended that we get in touch with you, they can take you through the various steps and opportunities to engage with our student population. So I will just verbalize what that is in case you can't find where it is. It is, let me make sure I have the right email. I believe it's nyuad.employer@nyu.edu. So they can hook you up.
Brilliant. Look, I think that this question has been asked, but if you want to add more to it, that would be great too. So as an accelerator, what have your learnings been in this period apart from moving to work from home?
If I could start with that, I think the biggest learning for us was a reminder that we need to be as agile as the entrepreneurs we work with. You know, we had like 2 or 3 different programs going physically, you know, meetings scheduled, events and things like that, workshops, and suddenly everything had to be shifted, you know, virtually very quickly. So I think the biggest learning for me personally in the last couple of weeks is just, you know, try to be positive as much as possible. Certainly the amount of work that has creeped up, at least for us, has increased significantly. But it's also fun to kind of explore new ideas that, okay, if we're doing a webinar, you know, how can we add more people and video and this and that? So it's a lot of innovation as well. And I think I've seen that from the founders that I've come across as well.
Robin?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same, you know, that certain things that we do can be online, and it's going to give us a broader reach as well to support the entrepreneurs. One thing we haven't solved for completely, and we're going to be testing this summer, is how do you create that sense of community? because I think one thing that accelerator programs can offer is that cohort cohesion, where we very intentionally try to select our cohorts where we think there could be synergies. It's very often the case that we've had founders swap and join other startups to grow. So one thing we're trying to think of, how do you create that sense of community, that bond, that trust, and that level of engagement with a cohort. So we are excited to try a few different kind of social mechanisms, but I think it's something we much more have to think carefully about and manufacture. Whereas in the past, you know, you get a group of, you do your selection, right? And you have that like-minded group together and it kind of happens naturally, where now I think we need to think more intentionally of what does community building look like online?
Yeah, I actually agree with Robin. I think now also one of the things that are currently rising is the sense of community, and especially moving online. Because, you know, we've been there and, you know, creating all these events and so on. And when this has happened, it actually gave us a kind of a shock that how can we deal with this? How can we move this online? And I personally think it has worked perfectly from our side, and we continue to improve them because this is something that I think is going to stay for a while. And we're trying to support in every way, supporting the startups. Because, you know, at the beginning when we first started, we tried to basically lower down the amount of people coming in. But, you know, it's natural for people to say, no, I need to work and so on, right? Especially entrepreneurs. And then we had to shut down. And then I guess they started to see it's actually affecting them. But now everything is moving online. It's just that we need to prepare the platforms in order to support them as well, and then move forward from there.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Hisham. And thank you, Saeed, for this very interesting and engaging discussion. Thank you, Shara, for hosting this. And thank you for the audience for being here and for engaging in this interesting discussion as well. I hope you're all stay safe, stay strong, and good luck with everything that you're building.
Thank you very much, Shara, for putting this together, and great to see you all. Thank you very much for the audience. Really good questions and engagement. Thank you.
Definitely. And Padmini, thank you very much for the expert moderation on the conversation. It was so seamless.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Padmini. Thank you, Robin. Great stuff.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for organizing this, Shara. Okay, take care,
Right.
guys. See you soon.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.